Hi everyone. Um, Today I'm here to present a topic: change data capture in data engineering. So for me, this means loading the change data. So I'm here today to present a tutorial wherein I would show you how I did the change data capture, and I think this will be quite helpful from a data engineering perspective. I know people do struggle in understanding the source and the target. So I would actually show you what I mean by source, what do I mean by target, and whenever there is a schema change happening, although there is a schema evaluation feature available, but I would like to go more in detail to actually handle the schema change. So let's get started. I hope you like this video. Before I move forward, please consider subscribing my channel and sharing this video if you find it helpful. Uh, uh, and please let's get started. So what I'm doing today is I have, okay, do you want to reconnect? Yes, let's reconnect. So what I'm doing here is I am focusing on using Claude first to understand what change data capture means and what are the different steps I am gonna use. So let me share with the most basic understanding of change data capture so that it makes clear for us to understand it. And before moving forward, um, I'm able to show you what actually I'm doing in the code. Code is just one part. However, let me just show you what am I doing. So yes, so I would just directly go to my notebook because I have created two notebooks in here. So the first one is to actually load data from the table and show you, for example, I'm making use of Docker container. Here is a Docker container wherein I am running my PostgreSQL database. I had a choice of either using Azure SQL database or AWS RDS, but again, I didn't want to pay. It's your choice. You can choose your version of it. I'm just choosing this PostgreSQL as my source. So you can see that this is up and running, and like to download Docker, I'll just post a link in the video description wherein you can download the Docker for your desktop, either for Mac or Windows, it doesn't matter. So I have run this, it's running in the background. I've already loaded the data onto my PostgreSQL database, which is visible from here, right? So I'm also using DBeaver to connect with my SQL Server database, SQL Server, as well as to read data from the database. The reason I chose the way I did it was because DBeaver can read from a host server, right? But wherein my Docker desktop actually is running on my local host. So in order to create a public tunnel TCP like a connection, so I use the bore. Let me show you what I did for bore. I guess I'm not sure if there are many videos regarding wherein you use free tools to understand the source and target in this depth. So what I did is actually I installed bore-cli. Although I tried ngrok, but it is a paid version, which again I don't want to do it because it's not required. You can most of the time you can actually do things using free tools. You don't actually need to pay for everything. So I try to find a simplest way, not a simplest way. I don't think so. It's a simple way to do things. It's just based on your understanding. So I use bore-cli, which actually what it does is my SQL server, SQL database, which is hosted on my local host, it creates a public IP, public address for it, which I am using in my DBeaver to read. As you can see, this is my DBeaver, and this DBeaver is community edition. You can download for your Mac OS. From the DBeaver website, and this is a pretty good tool. I wasn't using it much because I mostly relied on Databricks, and so I actually ingested data. I mean, I've not done ingestion, but again, I defined few tables in the PostgreSQL database, and then I use DBeaver to read the data. So you can download. I will post a link of the DBeaver Community Edition in the video description as well. All these things, when aligned well, they do help you to understand the schema evolution. Schema evolution is something which is conceptual. You would read a lot about it at so many places. But again, I actually want to try it out. What does it mean? How do you understand the schema evolution, change data capture? So this is my actual pipeline model. So I am using SQL Server change data capture. My source is actually a PostgreSQL database. Then I am not actually using autoloader. I am You can use autoloader as well. Maybe in the next video I can show you how autoloader actually loads the recent data. But this time I am showing schema evolution. Then I make use of the catalog, right, wherein I have my tables defined. So what I'm going to do is I have to change this port. This is not required. I'm just showing you for the first time how I did it. As you can see, if you go down in your bore-cli, you have a port on which your remote server is running. So 33627. Let me just change this, and here you can 33627. So what you can do is you can directly read the orders table, which is actually in your, let me attach this. So yeah, so I'm reading both the tables, right? So this is a bit complex. It may sound simple, but it took me a took me a bit of time to set up all these things from source to target. I know like people show through a lot of means. I just want to use the free tools and understand and improve my understanding. And I guess not many videos are there wherein they will show you schema evolution using the free tools. So it's totally based on my own personal research. So I hope you guys like it. My serverless is a bit slower today. Maybe I have hit the usage. This it is taking a bit longer time to read, which although it shouldn't take this much of time to even read. Like what I'll do is change my serverless to again this one. Please try again. Let me cancel this because it shouldn't take this long, right? Cannot create a serverless cluster. Let me show you. Attach and rerun this again. It says cannot create a cluster. So what it is? Why is it taking this long? Maybe the session is an issue, right? New session, right? Let's start a new session because I actually was running on an older session. I don't know why that's showing this dialog box. Please try again later. Let me refresh this. It was a bit slower while even I was doing it. There is again a badge I'm seeing. Let's go to compute, right? Maybe I've hit the, but again, I will still explain. So I don't know. Clusters are failing to launch. Cluster launch will be retired. View details. Let's see why is. So it is actually failing to create a cluster for me because I actually used it multiple times. Stop and start. So like there is some issue happening. Even though then also I would still explain it. It doesn't matter because so I have created all these things. So this is their CDC solution, right? So what am I doing here is the whole point to understand is I'm reading it from my JDBC, this PostgreSQL, right? And this is my username and password for my database. I read them as data frames, and like it's not, maybe there is some issue with the Databricks free edition. That's why I'm not able to actually show you the running pipelines. But again, I think by this time I think I can still show you the notebook and still show you how things actually work. That's more important than anything else. So what I was doing is I was trying to pull the tables. Let us see, what is the issue. Can I rerun this? Let me check one more time. This is SQL Python notebook. All right, let's see. Does it run this? Maybe it can run. Mm, 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 mm. So it is taking longer, right? Yeah. Even if it doesn't run, I actually have all the output from the cells. So this was trying to check the schema of the table, right? As you can see at this point of time, I only had order ID, customer ID, product name, amount, status, and created at. Then I started, I read how many rows exist in orders and counted the number of rows, right? And displayed the data in here, right? So you can see that. But if you go to our DBeaver, I actually wrote two script. I did schema evolution in two steps. First is for orders only, wherein I actually altered the table orders. I added the column discount percent, which is of type decimal, right? Up to two decimal point places default. So I put discount percent is 10.0, where order ID is this, order ID is this, and as you can see, so you can actually use DBeaver. DBeaver is pretty cool. I really liked it. You can run the select asterisk from orders, as you can see, right? Can I see the skill evaluation in DBeaver as well? I'm not sure. Maybe you can actually look at what changes happen to the table, right? So can we? Yes. So this is there, right? But can you see that it also has payment status, total with tax, payment method, right? So these were added in the other script, wherein what I did was I did two drift, schema drift, one for order table, which is again adding a credit card pending, like payment method, payment status, and total with tax. Then I provided the values for these columns. And similarly, I did for customers table. I altered the structure of the table, schema of the table, added phone number, loyalty tier, and total spent. And then what I did was I provided the values for these default phone number, loyalty tier, gold, silver, and this, right? Then I actually ran this. You can see, right? So this might be a good tutorial even for to understand DBeaver, right? How can you actually create a database connection with DBeaver? And also you can create a new script, right? Execute. You also have an AI assistant in your DBeaver. Nice, database is there, right? What else is there? Let me see if I can show you file transaction logs, right? So this is I do have no idea, right? So this is so can you see that there is something in the transaction logs? So I added these columns, right? These are all there, right? Drift orders for table that was last done. So let's go in here. So as you can see, initially I had this table in this, and then I use this function whenever so there was a bit of change. So I use the delta, write to delta function to write the new schema of the table, like write the new data along with the schema change onto the silver tables, right? That's what I did. And then I verified whether it has been loaded at the backend, in the catalog as well, right? To verify, read back from Delta to confirm. So as you can see, so my table, this silver customers and silver orders, right? So if I go to the history of silver orders, not sure whether compute will work or not, because I am seriously doubting this compute, Databricks free edition does have a bit of limit. That's why, I mean, you can make use of Azure SQL Databricks, wherein you do not have a limit. Maybe my next video would be on how to not, I mean, how to use Azure SQL database, this Azure Databricks, so that you are able to understand it, Let's, can I query this table? Yes, you can. Let's see, I just wanted to see, and I also created this to check whether there is a drift in the schema of orders as well as for customers. And then I actually simulate the drift by what I did was I read the new data frame from the backend and see what are the new columns, and then write the new data frame onto the existing table orders, silver orders, right? Then I read it again. So this is the whole thing which I'm doing. So what I'm doing is I'm using Claude to generate the PySpark mapping at runtime. Transactional integrity, right? Dropped columns, historically columns preserved as null in Delta. Type changes, try-cast, right? Audit trail, cost control, all these things are being done. And let's move on to the next one, wherein I actually made the changes. So this is more accurate. So I again read this thing. Oh, I think it's still running in the background. I have no idea whether it's taken 6 minutes. It should not take this long, right? You guys know this, right? This doesn't take this long. So you have to change your bore port. I mean, it's like I'm using a source database, right? So it's your choice. You may not need to do it. You can use a trial version from Azure or AWS, up to you, right? Because I just wanted to show the complexity of things. Things may not be simple. So what I did is I read the new data frame. I can rewrite it. What I can do is I can yes. So JDBC URL and these things are there. So you can see that it reads the new change which are happening at the back end of the table, like the back end of the database, based on the scripts which I ran. Um, can I describe? Let me see whether can I see the schema evolution in DBeaver as well. I know that DBeaver is just an interface tool to see, but again, we can make use of the tools for what they are meant for. Instead of jumping on to paid versions, can I use DBeaver to see what has changed in the table? I don't think so. You can change in the table. You can't have a history time table or like a history of table, history of table. Let us see. Not sure of DBeaver's capabilities, right? can see current table column rows, cannot see delta lake history, right? What you can see in DBeaver PostgreSQL is see all columns and types, all data in table, what changed after alter, right? Let's run these queries in I mean, it's like defining the schema. I did try using the describe statement, but it doesn't work in DBeaver, which is again a very weird scenario, right? Let's do in a new SQL script. So let's try running this. I don't know what does it show. Did it not run? So it is running in the background. So you can see order ID, customer ID, information schema dot columns, table name is orders. So you can see the meter type as well as the column name, right? And what else is saying? I can see that is very clear, right? You can also let's do the other things. So what you can do is you can see this one, right? So yeah, so that's it for DBeaver. So it's like a full tutorial on how can you even use DBeaver, right? To check the data at the source and then check what has changed in the your target table, right? These are the two target tables, customer orders and silvers. I wanted to show you the history of it, but again, there is an issue with like, I think there's a usage threshold on set on how much a user can use in a day, right? But again, it's fine. Let's go back in here. So what I did is then again, I wanted to detect a drift. Whether there is a drift, I created a class schema drift detector, right? And I read the latest table, the which exists in our delta, delta table which exists in our catalog, and what I am getting from the source. And if there is a gap, right, based on the mapped columns, you say, oh yes, there is a drift detector ready, and there is a drift. As you can see, detector ready, reading tables from PostgreSQL, 7 rows, customer 5 rows, right? So detecting schema drift. So you can see, right, there is a drift. There are new columns, right, and there is a drift in customer, right, and then again you see what is the drift, right? I just separated the cells. I can just upload this notebook onto a GitHub repo wherein you can actually rerun this on your own and see how it works out for you. And please do let me know, like, please share, please comment as well. What, uh, how did it go, right? Where were you stuck? And if I could help by replying back, that would be, yeah, it would really help, because it's more about understanding than applying mapping for orders, right? Then you have a dictionary which you have created, type map, right? Manual mapping. I created a manual mapping because I was trying to use this Claude API, but again, there's a you can't use it. You have to buy the credits. So I don't want to buy the credits. So I created a manual mapping. Handle dropped columns, handle type changes. So all these things, and yeah. So this is detected in orders, applying mapping, right? And then what you do is new columns are found, right? Casting to a scrim. If there is a new column which is there, you cast it. Mapping complete, mapping applied. So yeah, more of like it's for you guys to rerun this notebooks. You can rerun this notebook by creating the similar tables or making use of the um, making some changes at the DBeaver, using DBeaver, making changes at the source, and then rerunning the whole script to understand how the schema drift works. And then what this is the main function wherein I am actually overwriting onto an existing delta table. If it exists, it drops the table first, because you can't overwrite unless the schema is same. You have to drop the table and then overwrite the new data onto the table so that your schema is also changed. Then I actually checked what was the gap between the older silver orders and older silver customer as compared to the new data frame which we are reading. So I could see a bit of gap, right? Total spent, loyalty tier, phone number. This is, for example, for customers, right? Older and newer, after reading it from the PostgreSQL database, and that's how. And then I wrote back the changes using this write to delta, orders df, customers df, these sort of things I did. It was failing initially because orders df was pointing to an existing table in the database, this catalog or delta table. But then I did make a bit of change, and I used the customers df new right onto the existing customers, silver customers table, and as you can see, it was able to write it down. And then I verified whether the tables actually exist within my catalog or not. You found the table in Delta, so you can use the existing code, this whole notebook, to understand the schema drift. Um, this video could have been a bit longer, but again, it's more of understanding things. And if you guys are like, yeah, if yeah, if you, I'll just post the link in the video description wherein you can actually rerun the notebook for yourself and see for the changes, and how does CDC actually works using the tools DBeaver, Docker, and bore-cli. I know these are a bit complex tools. You won't be able to do it in single go. Believe me, like it took me a bit of time to even figure out bore-cli, as well as how do I use DBeaver to read the data from PostgreSQL, which is again running in Docker container. So there's a bit of complexities involved in this, the way I have done. But you can only do it. I'm not saying, because I just don't want to create surface level videos. I would just want to I want to show you in depth what you can actually do. And I also have, for example, my workspace, right? What I can actually do is I can create a new folder in here, right? I would say CDC, using Docker and DBeaver. So since I already have a connection with my GitHub repo, right? So I can move my notebooks, which are actually this and this. This may not be like, it may not be the perfect code, but again, it is much better than the surface level coding, right? Just I'm not doing an introductory level coding. Neither am I explaining the concept. I start from the fundamentals, but again, I go and deep dive into things to understand how they actually work for me and how it can actually help people, right? So I'm gonna move these two notebooks, and I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just move them to my GitHub repo, which I will share. What I would do is commit for CDC, CDC using DBeaver, DBeaver and Docker. Believe me, like to even use Docker and run it, it is a separate tutorial, right? It's a separate thing. But since those things are set up for me, it's easier for me to get it started. So, but again, if your Docker is installed, right, what you need to do is, so I'm able to successfully commit onto my GitHub main branch, which I will share. It's a public repo, so and yeah, so with the, as you can see, I can see my Postgres running here, right? And I've been using it for a while now, the Docker. And there are simple commands for Docker, not very difficult. As I can show you, what are the Docker commands to get started. So yeah, so so you are just first you are creating a directory, right? Then you use the Docker Compose up the you download the Docker desktop first, install it on your machine. And then you start with your Postgres container. You create a Postgres container, and then you um, yeah, restart and then stop and delete all data. Checking status, you check whether the Docker is like, if whenever you open the Docker desktop, you can see whenever you present this, it will show you that there is few applications running in the background. And this is visible from my log in here. Because it's morely, I tried multiple things. I was trying to install ngrok as I said, but it's not useful. It's waste of time. I mean, unless you really want to pay for something, which doesn't make sense to me, because if there is a free tool, why not, And then you can also see the logs, right? So what I can do is I can actually create another terminal and I can see the logs, right? So what I can do is shell, new tab, new window, right? Basic. I have no idea, right? So I want a new tab with profile basic. It's fine. I don't care. So I can see, right? So this you can see, right? So it is running on my Debian, right? This is Linux server, right? Linux machine. This is the address. This is the Unix socket. Database system is ready to accept connections. Um, Checkpoint complete. Wrote 46 buffers. These are in details, right? Like you can go deep dive into the logs and understand what is actually working and what is not working, right? Yes, and what else can we see? Watch logs in real time, check memory and CPU usage. Then you can managing containers. You can manage your containers, right? Yeah, you can manually stop the container, right, if it's running, or you can use the commands to do it, right? So yeah, like I want. How can I see using Docker command to see what changed? What's changed in my table in PostgreSQL database, right? PostgreSQL database, uh, right? Because that's something which is relevant to what I am actually presenting. So I wanted to see, can I actually do something, Why Docker once inside C, you can see, right? What has changed, right? Select C columns, information schema, see row level changes, right? So this is you can actually go inside the right this you can save current columns to a file. You can say, oh, I am here, like can you show me what has changed, right? Before drift text, run this after alter table, right? Drift before, so run this before alter tables because I already ran the alter table. So let me do this one because I want to show you what I've done. So it's like CD. Okay, what is the CD Postgres? DC Postgres, right? There was a CDC practice, right? CDC practice, CDC practice, no such directory, So ls was doing something, right? This is there, right? Okay. I like exploring things. You can see, right? There is a CDC practice now. Uh, Let me see. CDC practice. Docker Compose and init SQL, right? There are two files in there, right? Now what I would do is I would run this command first to see what does it do. Yes. All right. I'm inside. What does it say? Requires an argument C. No idea what does it say. I want to use this. Now I'm in the database, right? So what I would do is, as you can see, I have entered the database. I would see, run this after alter table, right? I want to use this, compare before versus after, right? So I would say this is there, right? Alright, this is after table. I would say I have already ran the alter table command, alter table command. So what do I do? So it's the same command you're running, right? Like, let's see, you are seeing this as this one, see all data from, see only new columns, Yeah, so yeah, up to you, right? You can just rerun the everything in here. This is actually like you are running inside the database, right? Like if you see, like you can see, right? You are actually inside the database and you can see whatever it is there. Even the data you can see, right? If I run, for example, this one, I don't know, like I haven't seen any tutorial which actually shows you how you can actually use PostgreSQL database inside the Docker and the SQL commands. I'm seeing it for the first time. So you can even see the data in here, right? Although it's like at terminal level, but again, it's better to see them in the tabular format, which is easier to understand, right? So with this, what I would do is, yeah, that's something I wanted to. I can show you the diagram. Can you show me the visual diagram wherein I did everything right, where I did what I did to what I did for CDC. Um, yeah, so it will show me everything, right? Including the tools and the way I did it on Databricks. Today, it's more of like at an understanding level. So there is an architected visual representation of CDC pipeline. I like to show you this because that's how it is, and this diagram can be really helpful, right? So you have your Docker desktop, right? Then you have your PostgreSQL running on the local host. Then you have orders table, customers table. Using DBeaver, which is a SQL client, you actually alter the scheme of the table. Then using the bore-cli tunnel, you actually create a tunnel wherein you can see the data, see the SQL server which is running on a local host and connect it through a JDBC connection. Then you have notebook 2, notebook 3, notebook 4. One, there is a drift, one, there is no drift, right? Schema evolution applied. Then you transfer the data onto the Delta Lake, right? So I think this is the best representation to understand what I did. Maybe when you run the notebook, you will understand what I did. It's more of like, yeah, that's why I like Claude. I think it really helps you to understand, and that's how it is. So my this is at the schema level, right? So the catalog where your table is present, right? Then you write the further evolved schema now verified in Delta, right? So source, tunnel, Databricks, Delta Lake, source to target mapping, right? Yeah, so this is pretty cool, right? To understand, maybe this can be, yeah, this diagram itself can help you understand what I did. I'm not sure. Like, please comment whether is there any YouTube video which actually shows you how to use the DBeaver as well as bore-cli tunnel and Docker combined with Databricks to understand the schema drift. Maybe this video might be the first one. I'm not sure. Uh, yeah, maybe if you really, yeah, it's like I was trying to figure out something, and you get to a level where you understand, oh, you can use this to understand, right? Yeah, with this, I would like to. So what I would do is I would share the even the GitHub repo, right? And I'm using a Databricks creation, and I think there is a threshold on it. That's the reason I'm not able to show you the running code. But yeah, I think it should be all right because my even my tutorials are deep dived into understanding through running code, not just understanding at the conceptual level, because you do encounter a lot of issues. It like this notebook may look smooth, but they actually weren't smooth, right? So these took me a bit of time to even uh, prepare and run the pipeline, and you can run it multiple times. It doesn't matter. The moment you make change, you see a manual change happening, right? In DBeaver, you update your change the schema of the table, and then you want to change at the target, right? So it's like a source to target mapping. And yeah, with this, I would like to end this video. I hope this really helps, and if it does, please do comment, like, and subscribe. Thank you.